Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. So today we'll be discussing the great master Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, written by his disciple Swami Sarvasthananda. The original is, as you all know, is the Bengali work C. Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga. So this English translation is known as Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master. And as I've told you many times, we read it along with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which are the words, the advice that he gave to struggling devotees who were struggling in their own lives and who used to flock to him in Dakshineshwar. And each one of them, though belonging to a different background, got a solution, a spiritual solution to their worldly problems. Nobody, in fact, is free from problems in this world. They just change their nature. They come in different forms. They can be physical, they can be, they belong to the mind sometimes, they can be mental problems, they can be problems of adjustment with other people, or they can be intrapersonal, that is within ourselves. Our own mind can be our own enemy. So there are various solutions suggested by different people, including psychologists and wise people all over the world, have paused to think how they can best make their life not only joyful, peaceful, but also happy and also useful to others. So some people have not restricted their quest to their own life. When they saw the problems that they face are the problems that entire humanity faces, they try for a universal solution. And this is the role of avatars and prophets. Buddha, when he encountered problems for the first time in his life, he was very, as you all know, his father was very keen that he led a very happy, peaceful life. He was not shown the darker side of human life. He was not shown what misery is because his father could afford to do that. He was a rich, if not a king, a rich. Uh, he had a small kingdom. He ruled over a small territory, no doubt. He was not an emperor. But he could afford to give his son Siddhartha all the luxuries of life. And he wanted to see that his son does not renounce the world and become a monk as the astrologer had predicted. So he thought one reason why people turn to spirituality is misery. So unless one becomes, that was the misconception his father had, that if my son is exposed to the miseries of the world, which sooner or later catches up with everyone, at least if not during their, I mean, towards the end of their life, old age, diseases, and all those comes, and then finally the problem of death, which is a problem that has never been solved. Every time a philosopher or even the great prophets, they are the ones who attempt to solve this problem of death, which is inevitable in our life. Other things we can have solutions. Science has developed, medical science has developed. We can prolong our longevity, we can cure diseases, we can try so many things. But ultimately, it is just a patchwork. We just postpone. We postpone things, and finally, we give up, seeing that there is no solution, and then face the inevitable, which is death. That is the question which troubled Nachiketa in the famous Kathopanishad. This young boy disagreed with his father, who taught him all the scriptures. He said, the scriptures say that you have to become immortal while you are still living. Is it possible to become immortal? Here you are telling me to perform this ritual, that ritual, so that you can go to heaven. And on the other side, you are the one, you are my guru. You told me that these heavens are also temporary. When all your merit exhausts, then again you have to be born again. So, where is the end to all this? Is there something? What happens to a person when he dies? So, this young boy asked his own father, and the father, like all other fathers, including Buddha's father, Siddhartha's father, thought that these are not the questions that should be asked when a person is young. Otherwise, how will he rule the kingdom? If he starts thinking about misery, if he wants a solution, then he may be tempted to renounce the world and find a solution, as the astrologer had predicted. So he tried to always keep him surrounded with happy things. Everything was nice, good education. He was taught everything that is worth teaching. He was married off at a very young age. And he also had a child, Rahula. And everything was going on so nicely because he was not allowed to be exposed to any kind of misery, poverty, disease. And his father thought that this way I can engage him, and then one day he will take over the kingdom. When I retire, he will become the king and he will rule the kingdom wisely. With that thought, but unfortunately, or fortunately for Buddha, unfortunately for his father, he decided, he was very curious, he was not happy. Said, I have all the luxuries of the world which my father has kindly given me. But I just want to see what is life like. Why am I not allowed to go out? So he goes, he decides, one day he decides and just leaves the palace, and then the transformation that takes place is historic because he sees for the first time in his life some simple events which we see daily. But for Buddha, it was a shock. He saw the moment he goes out on the street, there was a person lying very sick, and nobody even bothered because he had perhaps a contagious disease. Nobody was caring for him. He was just neglected and left to die. So he asked his charioteer, what is this? He says, this is a sick man, he is suffering from this disease. Then this suffering is so bad, why nobody is bothered about him? So he says, nobody wants to take the risk of that is how he will die ultimately. Then he moves on and then he sees an old man who is very old, so old that even with the stick he was struggling to walk. So then he says, oh, I didn't realize that one day we can also be old like this and I'll have to struggle even to walk. So that was the second shock. And finally, they say he saw a dead person, people carrying a dead body. And then he says this lifeless body is ultimately the final destiny. All of us have to come to this state. And people are watching it every day. These things are happening around them. But somehow mysteriously they think that there is enough time and uh, we don't have to bother about our, just like Siddhartha's father thought, and also Nachiketa's father thought. And he just discouraged him. He said, now why are you bothering me with all these questions? He says, that is what you taught me. It is you who taught me that the scriptures say that you have to attain immortality when you are living. And now you say that perform this ritual, that ritual, so that you can go to Swarga. And you yourself said this Swarga is also of a temporary nature. So his father was very angry with him, trying to question me. He's just a tiny little boy. But anyway, the question is the issue here is that the solution which Krishna, which Siddhartha or Buddha sought, and also Nachiketa as a young boy who was much younger than Siddhartha, also thought deeply was, is there a permanent solution to all our problems? If it is just a temporary solution, then again we'll have to find out another solution for some future problem which might come. So we do not know. Life is so uncertain. So, Sri Ramakrishna's case also, you find that he passed through a similar stage. Though his brother, his elder brother, who was the master of the family, and his father died when Gadadhar was just 10 years old. So naturally, when he was deeply thinking, you all know, we discussed this last time also, that Sri Ramakrishna, people think that because he didn't go to school, because he went to school, but he didn't go to the university, and he was not educated by in the sense that we understand. We thought it would have been difficult for him to acquire knowledge. That is what the Western educated disciples who came to him, including Swami Vivekananda, thought, and the Master Masha and Master Masha also. So they were not able to understand that how can knowledge be acquired without even having some formal education. And as Swami Vivekananda said, that his education was in a different university. It was the University of Prakriti. He saw the problems and he wanted a solution based on what he had heard. Of course, he had heard a lot of things. Whenever the great spiritual people used to pass through his village on the way to Puri, they used to often come to Dakshineshwar, and then even when his childhood, they used to go to Kamarpukur because that was on the way to Puri. Most of them covered these holy places on foot. So naturally, they would stay, and that was the old system in India that there were dharmashalas in almost every village. So any unknown guest, any pilgrim who set out on a holy pilgrimage would be given food, given some shelter, basic shelter. And Sri Ramakrishna had the opportunity to serve. Somehow he liked the company of these holy men. And when he was asked, you never went to school, you never uh, learned philosophy and all these things. How can you speak such wonderful words? Who taught you all this? He said, I might not have read all these things like you people read, but my knowledge was more direct because I heard it. How many things I have heard from these people? The difference was that when we see his childhood days, which we are discussing now, he had a wonderful memory. One of the seven qualities that he had, one was a wonderful memory. Anything that he heard even once, he could remember. Not only remember, he used to very often, because in those days, all these people, the wandering people, they used to sing the bowls and all they used to convey highest spiritual truth, that is truth, uh, through an oral tradition. So that was very common. And that is how these spiritual values became so normal or so easily they would be spread in village to village. Most of the people were obviously not literate to read Ramayana, Mahabharata, and all these scriptures, but they did not suffer for lack of knowledge because these people who, for a little bit of food and shelter, would share so much of knowledge they gathered by their lifetime uh, dedication to different aspects of Indian spiritual life. So it's an oral tradition, very vibrant oral tradition, which made India survive till Lord Macaulay decided to damage or destroy this system of education by introducing, instead of an education system, an examination system, which has nothing to do with education. It is just examining some people and some information that they just stuff their brains with, and without understanding the implications, how they are going to solve the problems of your life. So the basic education that Sri Ramakrishna received, and these are Swami Vivekananda's words. He says, we regretted that we just managed to get second-hand information by going to universities, whereas my master was the most original thinker because he got all his knowledge from the University of Prakriti or nature. So nature taught him everything that is worth learning. Just as it was not the education that his father gave that made a Buddha. It was just his exposure to human reality that set him on a journey. And in the process, he not only discovered the solution, which he, the quest that led him to the solution, which he shared with the entire humanity. And that is how the great religion of Buddhism, Christianity, it was Christ's discovery. All of them discovered these truths in communion with nature. So they didn't have to go to schools like us or universities like us because they were more interested in the science of human possibilities, the solutions that our personality is seeking and will seek in the future. So it was a time tested tradition which they intended to follow. So they went in quest of that knowledge. And by means of reasoning, just as a scientist would reason things, Sri Ramakrishna found that the human mind, all our education, the human mind follows a path from gross plane, which is the most destructive aspect of Prakriti, which is not sustainable. It can be sustained for 100 years, not beyond that, at the most, with a healthy body. And so ultimately, a rational person will give more emphasis to the subtle, something that survives death. That is what Nachiketa wanted to know from his father. All he wanted to know is what happens after death. He did not want to wait till he is 80 or 90. In those days, the uh, age longevity was also less. But in any case, 100 years is what the Vedas promise is the maximum limit. So he thought if it requires some kind of preparation, then I better do it now. But his father could not understand that. Just as Buddha's father thought that giving him a very good education, he would make Buddha at the most a king of a small kingdom in North India, Nepal, near Nepal. That's the highest goal that he had for his son. But Buddha had a higher goal because he was born to solve the problems of the entire on a much more sustainable basis than any other scientist who maybe does some patchwork and solves the problem for some time. So you cure one disease, you have one more disease, then you go to another specialist, you have one problem, you go for some counseling, he will give you some counseling, it will solve the problem temporarily. But nobody goes to the root of the problem and tries to solve the problem at the very grassroots. It doesn't. For that, you have to come to religion or spirituality. That is what Sri Ramakrishna understood even while he was so young. And people thought he's sad, as other boys would have been sad when if they lose their father when they were just 10 years old. In fact, he was not. He was definitely sad. His father loved him so much. He was the youngest of the family. But his mind was somewhere else. He wanted to know if life is so transitory, though only the other day my father was alive and now he has passed away. So is there no solution? Is there, I mean, what do we, why do we exist at all? Is there a way where we can become immortal while we are still living? Because the scriptures say so. So many, every scripture, any belonging to any religion, everybody speaks of immortality, speaks of the Father in heaven, speaks of a heaven which is, uh, it's not the type of swarga that we think. Heaven, Father in heaven means that eternal life which will solve the problem of death, the problem of our gross existence. So he found that all the scriptures, whether it is Vedanta, whatever he heard, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and there were plenty of such opportunities to young Gadadhar. He saw how every one of them, starting from the most simplest rituals. which is idol worship, which was hated in those days. People thought it was a superstition. But he saw how the human mind proceeds from the gross. That is the idea behind all our Durga Puja and all the pujas we do. Ultimately, at the end of the worship, we do Visarjan, just to remind ourselves that no matter how much you develop in the physical world, you have to just discard that physical frame, however dear it was to you. And the spirit of the Divine Mother should be held close to the heart, because that alone, the more subtle it is, the more sustainable it will be. And that will give you some joy which is sustainable. If you hold on to the gross, it will give you joy as long as it is valuable to you, or as long as you are able to enjoy it. So, and that has a limit. The more gross a object or a person or a being, the less permanent it is. It is this temporary nature which inspired Buddha, which inspired Gadadhar, which inspired all the prophets of the world to find, to move forward in the quest to find the Father in heaven, or to find nirvana, to find moksha. These are the different ways to reach the supreme goal of life. So you go from the gross. We have seen this in our uh, talk on Vedanta and the science of human possibilities, that human possibilities are explored slowly from the gross to the subtle to our energy level of our body. Then we go to the mental level, we develop the mind, then we find if there is any higher uh, level at which we can develop, then we go to the buddhi, the wisdom that we develop, and then people don't stop. So the scriptures went on investigating higher and higher possibilities that a human being can reach. And finally, they find the way to the goal. So in Sri Ramakrishna's uh, youth, we'll find he is already a young man now. And then we find that his elder brother also died. So Ram Kumar died. Ram Kumar was the eldest brother. Then the second one was Rameshwar. So all of them, all of the brothers, they were so dear to Rani Rasmani that after his passing away, Rameshwar was asked to do. Hriday was also helping in. So they were all so-called employees of this Dakshineshwar temple. Whereas Sri Ramakrishna was not keen to become an employee. In fact, he never bothered for salary and all those things. And when he was asked, even at this young age, to, because Rani Rasmani and Mathur Babu, her son-in-law, they loved him so much. They knew that if at all uh, a person has to do the service of the Divine Mother Bhavatarini in Dakshineshwar, it should be Sri Ramakrishna. But as he observed, unlike other priests, he clearly told them, you see, you people have put so much of jewelry, and my mind will be engaged with that, how to protect it from robbers. In fact, a few days earlier, when he was young, when he still did not have the responsibility of the Radhakanta temple, some robbers came and stole the gold necklace or some ornaments. That is obvious. If you have a lot of ornaments in the, you can't expect God to protect it. But people don't realize. They think they are doing a great service by adorning the deity with so much of gold and all. Anyway, when it was taken away by some robber, Mathur Babu was very angry. We have read that incident. He goes and complains and shouts at the priest, and then he says, then he is angry on God also. He says, you are so powerful, you can't protect your own jewelry. So he was, of course, obviously very stupid in saying that. But Sri Ramakrishna got terribly angry. Though he was young, he was wise. His buddhi had been awakened. So he goes and tells Mathur Babu, what nonsense are you talking? This golden ornaments may be worthy to you, they may be valuable for you. But to the empress, to the goddess of the whole universe belongs to her, including the diamonds and everything that is in the world. So, do you think, uh, how do you expect her to be sorry that a few jewelry and they are valuable to you because of your limited idea of God or limited idea of the value of things around you? Then it dawns, and Mathur Babu agrees with that. So he knew that since I can't change how these people worship in the temple, he said, I don't want to take the responsibility of doing puja here because of these ornaments, because I can't take care of that. Then all these uh, family members of Rani Rasmani, they thought, no, 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 don't worry. We'll employ somebody who will just take care of that. And there were many people ready to do that for a salary. Just look after the jewels, decorate. He said, I'm not going to do all that stuff. I'll worship the way I feel like. He used to worship with devotion. So, the master's mode of worship, that is the chapter that we are leading. How did he worship? How his worship was different than other priests who are employed by the Dakshineshwar Temple Trust. All of them took it as a job. The salary, the benefits they got, all the different things. That was the main reason, including Hriday. So Hriday said, okay, I'll take responsibility. Because for them it was just the gross seva of, they could see the Divine Mother and their mind was on the gross. So they will appreciate if the goddess has so much of jewelry. Every year, some rich man would come and say that I want, because he has a lot of money to spare, he will just say, I want to decorate the mother. Whether he has devotion or not, it's his idea is the more I uh, decorate the Divine Mother, it is expression of my devotion. So anyway, Sri Ramakrishna did not criticize that. He said, all I ask is that I will not take the responsibility of anything, any valuable, because I can just worship. So how he worshipped is worth understanding because that is what Swami Sarvasthananda discusses. So he believed that the worship of the Divine Mother, the main objective is to have a vision of her, to realize her existence, if she really exists. See, we have not even come to a stage when he had his first vision. The first vision he had, if you compare all the different visions he had later on, the first vision was not that of the Divine Mother. He just saw a huge sea of light emanating from the image of Bhavatarini. He didn't see a living image of Mother. The first vision, if you read, will come to that. He gets he was engulfed by that huge sea of consciousness, the light that came out, and he just lost the consciousness and he went into samadhi. That was his first major experience. But before that, he was very keen to know where does this worship of the image, which has been done for centuries. He says Ram Prasad, Kamala Kanta, they were all great devotees of, and they wrote so many wonderful songs in Bengali, uh, which describe their visions, their feelings, the visions that they had, the spiritual experiences they had. And like all sincere people, Sri Ramakrishna said that if they had these experiences, why shall I not have that? As a true scientist would say, if somebody has experimented and found a solution, then when I go to the laboratory and I experiment, I should get the same result. It's a very scientific way of approaching. It's not that he believed because he was born a Hindu or somebody told him that he accepted this. He said so many innumerable people, Ram Prasad, Kamala Kanta, all of them have written such wonderful poetry. Are they just figures of speech? Have they just tried to explain this because they were good poets? Or did they really experience this? So he used to think, this was, of course, nobody would understand his inner feelings. So he would say, he would say to himself, Ram Prasad and other devotees had the vision of Divine Mother. That is what they claimed. They have seen. Otherwise, how can they write such immortal songs, which are immortal even today? So he would every at the end of every day, like a small child, he would cry. He said, "Why I am not able to see? If you have revealed yourself to him, to them, the great poets of the past, then why are you not showing yourself, showing your whichever form you like to show? Because they have expressed, the Upanishads also expressed, rishis have expressed their visions, the Bhagavata explains in a different way. There are thousands and thousands of wonderful experiences. So he says, his simple logic was that I am also praying, I am also doing all the spiritual practices. Why are you not revealing yourself to me? And then he also knew from his experience that half-hearted approach will not suffice. If you want to achieve anything, even if you see the great inventors, Newton and other people, how obsessed they were with their quest. They had no time to enjoy the luxuries of life. In fact, they didn't even know when they ate their food, when they had practically neglected all the pleasures of life just because they were obsessed with the idea to make these discoveries, whatever discoveries they were after, that engage their whole attention. That is a golden rule of spiritual life. Whatever you think to be real engages your whole attention. If you think money is real, then you will day and night think of money. That is the nature of the mind. If you think money is not important, then you will not run after money. You will run after something else which you think is important. So it's a simple psychological truth. Whatever you consider to be real at your particular stage of life, you will go after it. It's a simple logic. So Sri Ramakrishna got convinced that all these great people, they were not fools. Why do people worship them? Why do people appreciate them? Why are these songs sung? Since childhood, I've been singing hearing the songs of Ram Prasad and all these great saints. Every corner you go, these great devotional songs are so popular, and thousands of people are singing that. If they had no truth in them, then why do they say all these things? Were they dishonest? That's why that question, doubt also came. And then he said, you have put so much condition. The scriptures put so much condition that you should renounce everything or renounce as many things as you possible because you can't have God and mammon at the same time. Jesus was so strict that he would not have, at least Indian system or the Indian plan of the Vedas is you give up gradually. You have a very balanced approach, a smooth approach. If you can give up some things, you give up. You don't have to give up everything. But Jesus, when the disciples came to him, some of them were very rich people. So they were asking, we want to follow you because he was so popular in those days. And they all wanted to be his disciples. Then he said, he tells them, you have to sell what you have and distribute among the poor, and then you can follow me. His standard was very high. Vedic rishis understood that people will not give up their things so easily. They love both the God and their world. So go give up the world whatever you can slowly, and then your correspondingly your love for God increases. Whereas Jesus was uncompromising. He said you can't have God and mammon at the same time. He tells his disciples, see, that person refused to come because I put such a condition to him, and he loves his money so much that he doesn't want to come. Though he said he wanted to come, when I told him this is the condition, and then that famous quote that you can't worship God and mammon at the same time. So Sri Ramakrishna knew that. He knew that, and he said, see, I have even given up all these things. I don't mix with my family members. I have given up the desire for wealth. I have given up my friends, family, or objects of enjoyment. I am going into solitude. At the As soon as he finished his puja and other duties, he used to run into the Panchavati and sit in solitude. And used to meditate, used to do exactly what the scripture said. And then he started having doubts. He said, "You should." They got the realization, and I've done whatever the scriptures say, whatever these great songs which are based on the scriptures say, and you don't reveal. He would pray and he would cry, weep as if he was a child trying to get an object. But somehow he found that after every such struggle, he would to go to the solitude of Dakshineshwar Panchavati, and there he was to weep because nobody would see him there. Nobody would dare to go there. There were so many snakes and other things. So he would try to please. Whenever he came back, he used to sing songs. He did everything that was possible. His yearning was so much, though he didn't have any guru at that time. You should see that most of his gurus came when he already had the first realization. So for him, the only guru was scriptures, the faith that he had in the scriptures, whatever he had heard since his childhood, and the faith in the Divine Mother that she would somehow answer the prayers. Because these songs say that if you have revealed yourself to Ram Prasad, to all the other saints, why will you not reveal yourself? So he spent his days after days, so patiently worship, meditation, singing, and not bothering about the jewelry and other things, which Hriday was very glad to did. He said, "Mama, you don't worry. I will take care of those things." And he was happy to do that. That is what everybody is happy. So he one thing was there, Swami Sardananji says, the time he spent in performing worship, he did puja, obviously did puja, is to pluck flowers himself, go to the shrine, but it was very irregular. That is one thing which becomes a sacrilege. If other priests, they went and complained that he has no systematic way of worshipping. Sometimes he offers flowers, sometimes he doesn't offer, sometimes he meditates in front of the mother, neglecting all the ritualistic puja. Sometimes he sits as a log. After offering food to the goddess, he would wait and wait and wait and expect the mother to eat the prasad. We never take it seriously. We just offer prasad, offer the offering, and we are very keen to see that the offering is over so that we can have prasad. So what we offer is what we really want to eat, not what. But this poor Gadadhar was so keen that he would very often sometimes doubt whether mother really existed. If she existed, why would she not eat? It looks all very childish, but these were the wonderful sentiments that he had. And sometimes he would be in a different mood. So seeing all this uh, seeing this behavior, which was obviously not normal, the priest sometimes went and complained. Sometimes he would sing so much that he would forget to do the Vespers. Many times this happened. But somehow Mathur Babu and others, they were had so much faith. Every time anybody went and complained against him, they were obviously complaining because they were jealous of the importance he was given by the Rasmani family. So anyway, they used to complain, but they would say, no, let him worship the way he wants. We know he's genuine, and they all had faith. Because of him, even Mathur Babu, Rani Rasmani, they had divine experiences. So they recognized the divinity like many others did. So naturally, when you hold such values, when you do such a kind of worship, it induced jealousy in many of the others in the temple compound. First, they ridiculed, they made fun. Then he says, Swami Sardananji says, everywhere there is first a rejection. Every movement, every idea is first rejected. then it is tolerated, and then finally it is accepted. It passes through three stages. That is what he is trying to discuss. First, they will ridicule you, but you should not give up because somebody comes and tells you what you are doing is wrong. If you keep on changing, then there is no strength of mind. So he didn't bother. Was least bothered what others spoke because he had no time for that. So people ridiculed him, and rejection, acceptance comes later. Then you tolerate. Then they found this is a normal thing for him. So there's no point. The Rasmani family also is not keen to change him. They have so much faith and reverence in him, and he's doing the way he. So they just started slowly ignoring. So then it gets turned into reverence when they really understood the motive behind his way of worship. The people's attitude slowly were changing. Some of them who did not have the luck or they were not graced by these visions which Mathur Babu and Rani Rasmani had, even they started having some kind of reverence, including Keshav Chandra Sen, who was one of the most mm, uh, vehement uh, protesters of this puja, Murti puja. In fact, they had given a standing instruction to all the Brahmo disciples that they should not go and bow before a statue. So, when Swami Vivekananda, who was then known as Narendra, and Rakhal, who was his close friend, who later on became Swami Brahmananda, he saw Brahmananda secretly going and worshipping and doing pranams to the divine. Otherwise, they would directly come to Ramakrishna because they saw Keshav Chandra Sen also comes. So, naturally, most of the young people of Calcutta would be attracted. But their Brahmo rules did not allow them to go to the shrine. So, once or twice, even Vivekananda in the initial stages, Naren saw that Brahmananda is secretly going and doing pranams like Thakur used to do. So he said, why are you going there? You are breaking the Brahmo rule. So he just kept quiet, and even Sri Ramakrishna rebuked him. He said, I didn't ask you to go there, but if somebody else goes, why are you objecting? You stick to your principle. And in fact, he did not go for a long time. He just came because he loved Sri Ramakrishna. He sang also in front of him. But it took some time before he really went to the shrine. And that too, when his family faced a deep crisis after the passing away of his father. That is when he accepted Mother Kali. He, in fact, went against his own wishes to the temple. So, his method of worship, it was a, it was subject to a lot of criticism to most of the people of the temple, but later on, these very people became very respectful. So, it is said, now he's quoting Hriday. Hriday was the only witness because, as you know, this book was written much later when when Swami Shardananji and all the disciples came in sometime in 1882. They Sri Ramakrishna lived only for 4 years. So all the training they got, maybe some of them came in early 80s, 1880. But the sadhana period was unknown to all of them. Only Hridaya, whatever they could hear and confirm, was has been written here. So he says, because they had not even seen Rani Rasmani, all of them had passed away when these direct disciples came, these monastic disciples. So Mathur, it seems, Mathur once told Rani Rasmani, we have got such a great, wonderful worshipper. It seems the goddess will be awakened soon. That was the idea. In India, if you go, uh, we'll find in Bengali they'll say it is a Jagrut Devata. Jagrut means a awakened deity. Temples are considered to be Jagrut. For example, we have Dwaraka, we have Puri, Jagannath Puri, because of the great saints that were associated with that. They say these shrines, these images, they are no longer just images. They are images which have been awakened. So that faith was there. She installed, Rani Rasmani spent so much money, built such huge temples, that temple whole complex, such a wonderful campus was created. But she knew it is only if Sri Ramakrishna worships, this deity will one day be awakened. So awakening happens only when a large number of spiritual people give their suffuse the statue and the area around the shrine with their vibrations. It should be powerful enough to cancel the effects of the evil impressions because of huge crowds. That is what these saints do. That is what he's saying. These great people actually awaken and create vibrations which last for a very long time. Because no matter how many impure people come with so many selfish desires, not everyone who comes to the temple is a holy or a noble person. But their effect, the combined cumulative effect of these holy people, these unholy people, is not strong enough. Even if a very holy person with so much of powerful vibrations, if he lives there, if he prays there, so they were very happy that they got such a nice pujari, though he did not look like a pujari for most of the people. He did not look like a pujari. He didn't do the way other people, priests do puja, just in a mechanical way, in a methodical way, no doubt. They do in a very disciplined and methodical way. But it is just another ritual. So Keshav Chandra Sen knew this. So even though he was breaking his own rules, Brahmo Samaj did not believe in Murti Puja, but he came and used to visit. And breaking all the rules, he himself used to sometimes visit. And Sri Ramakrishna used to be very happy, especially when Naren got converted, that though he held very strong Brahmo values, he was so happy that day when he went to pray to the Divine Mother. Maybe he went because his family was facing so much of tribulation because of the death of his father and the selfish nature of his relatives who wanted to grab his house and throw away his mother and all the brothers and sisters. So he was on one side, he wanted to lead a spiritual life, on the other side, these legal cases and all the. So he was in a dilemma. He said, my family is suffering so much. Then Sri Ramakrishna tells him, why don't you? You see, you are suffering because you don't pray to that Divine Mother. Just go and ask her, why are you? No, no, he says, you pray to her. You pray because she will answer your prayer. And I never had faith in the images. So he says, no, no, you go, just try. And then we know what happens. That incident will come later. But anyway, in those days, it was very well known that slowly that people started believing that because Sri Ramakrishna worshipped, at least Mathur told Rani Rasmani that this worshipper will awaken. It seems the goddess that you have installed here will become awakened very soon. So his mind, will see, Sharadanji says, he didn't bother about what people say about him. His was one pointed. His yearning was 100%. So it was always. uh, Now we come to another chapter, another paragraph, where this is how he worshipped. Some hints he has given, whatever information he could gather. But now he discusses a very important aspect of Master's personality, Sri Ramakrishna's personality, that what happens when a person becomes spiritual? Are there any corresponding changes in the body? Because you all know Swami Sarvasthananda himself studied medicine. He would have become a doctor if he had not come to Sri Ramakrishna. So he had a very sound knowledge of medicine, whatever he studied. So he could explain these things, and he found that these emotions, these spiritual emotions, have an effect on the body. That is why they say, and he was very keen to know, as Arjuna was keen to know from Krishna. He asked him the question, suppose a person is following spiritual pursuits, suppose he reaches the goal. How does he, because people want to know what transformation takes place. How does he walk? How does he talk? How does he behave? Are there any signs by which we can judge? Because we can't see the subtle spiritual development of a person. We can't see the inside of a personality. We can just see the external behavior. So here is trying to establish a relationship, a correlation of the changes or transformation of the body, physiological transformation based on mental transformation. So our all our thoughts, they give rise to corresponding thoughts, which includes emotions, thinking, feeling, and willing. So all our thoughts, as also our actions, which are the result of our willpower, when thoughts become actions, the will, the Ichha Shakti or the will comes into play. Because if we have just thoughts and emotions and sit quietly, nothing is going to happen. So, spiritual transformation takes place when thoughts correspond, thoughts, emotions, and thoughts means the thoughts that we get, cognition, and the emotions. There is another aspect of thoughts. We can think a thought without emotion, we can think a thought full of emotion. So, emotion is also an aspect of the mind. So, also is willpower. When just thoughts and emotions and you just sit doing nothing, then it doesn't, the mind does not function properly. Mind does not explore all the possibilities. So they say karma yoga, which is the expression of the will, all your thoughts, all your emotions have to be seen in action in your own life. So Swami Shardanji is keen to see what are the physical trends, because as you all know, towards the last phase of his life, one doctor, Mahendralal Sarkar, was obviously a allopath, but who changed to homeopathy. He was a great homeopathic doctor and he used to visit Sri Ramakrishna as a doctor, not as a devotee. He had absolutely nothing to do with what he taught. He just loved Sri Ramakrishna because he was a good person and he was his patient. That's the only relationship. And he even made fun of the devotees. Said he's such an innocent person. You are spoiling his head by calling him guru and all this. Just leave him alone. He's such a nice person. So he had his own scientific view. So he was curious. Though he came as a doctor, he also observed certain changes in Sri Ramakrishna's body and personality, physical changes, because as a doctor, he would be more concerned with the body changes. Of course, they take into consideration the mental changes, especially in homeopathy. You need uh, a thorough analysis of your mental states along with your physical symptoms. That symptoms are not enough physical symptoms. You need to make an analysis of the mental states that the patient has. That is how homeopathy has developed. But anyway, he used to come and he used to know, he used to very curious to know when he came that is this trance real? He seems to be going in a trance. And he was shocked when he saw the body showed no signs of life. That is the experiment which Mahendralal Sarkar did. So Shardananji was also interested to know what were the bodily changes that happened. Because this was a rare phenomena. Every day you don't see Ramakrishna. We find we don't find such prophetic people. They come once in a lifetime, once in a several hundred years, as Vivekananda said. But they can't deny that these things were observed by a doctor who was one of the most famous doctors of Calcutta Medical College in those days. And he was a well-renowned doctor, both having training both in allopathy and homeopathy. And he, now and then, whenever he saw such strange uh, samadhi, which he did not want to accept, he thought it's just a disease of the brain. But anyway, he found certain things which he could not, which medical science could not accept. There was no sign of breathing, there was no heartbeat when he went into samadhi, and miraculously, mysteriously came back. Even all the signs of the dead body were seen, of a body without life. But anyway, that those things are the higher effects of higher states of mind. Here, Swami Shardanand was saying, what are the normal things that some of the people, including Hriday, because Hriday was very much conscious, whatever it may be, though he did not understand the high spiritual states, he was at least very particular to see if Sri Ramakrishna's health, he was concerned about his health. So if he saw some problems in the body, he would run to a doctor or take all care. So first thing he found that his appetite and need for sleep diminished. That was one of the first signs they observed. So now that is the sacrifice you have to make. It's not that the body will not suffer. That is why Sri Ramakrishna said, if you are not prepared, the body can pay a very heavy price for the spiritual experiences you have. It's like passing a very high current with in a bulb with low wattage. If the wattage is low, the capacity to absorb a high voltage will immediately destroy the bulb. So he said you have to be very careful because in his case, all these spiritual experiences ultimately had a toll, uh, they had their toll on his body. And this Swami Shardanji is recording. He says the first thing that they saw, and because of that he was suffering a lot, but he didn't mind because his devotion was so great. Constant, uninterrupted thought of the Divine Mother. Obviously, you have to neglect your physical needs. So his appetite started. He could not eat, he could not sleep properly, and blood continuously flowed to his chest and head because that is the point of focus. When you focus too much, there is a tendency for the blood circulation to be focused, to be constant. The prana shakti, which is responsible for blood flow, the circulation of the blood, naturally they rush towards that portion where you are focusing. So he said many people saw, or Hriday has recorded that his eyes, his chest would become crimson. If you have seen the photo, he normally they just, because of the hot climate, they would just wear a dhoti, the chest would be exposed. So very often, because of the intense emotions and meditation, his chest would look crimson. And of course, his eyes, tears used to flow. So there was a constant and intense desire to see the Divine Mother. He asked himself, what shall I do? How can I see her? That is the first sign of his yearning. Signs of anxiety and restlessness were therefore always visible in his body, except when he meditated and performed worship. You see, in meditation, as Swami Vivekananda said, you have to suppress the emotional side altogether. Meditation has a calming effect. It gives you a wonderful rest. Whereas devotional, too much intense devotion, because you are using emotion, and emotion has a tendency to have its impact on the physical body. Whereas if you meditate and if you do karma yoga, which is worship, in his case it was worship, the body did not become crimson. It's only when he cried, when he prayed with a lot of devotion, his chest would become crimson. So when he meditated, when anybody meditates, Patanjali says, because in that state you are not using your emotional, it's not bhakti, you're not using your emotional side. So it doesn't have any adverse effect. In fact, it improves your physiological characteristics and you feel peaceful, you feel calm. That's many people have found meditation even reduces the blood pressure and all those things. So here he says all these signs like blood flowing in the heart and the chest, which was very clearly visible. That happened only when he was singing devotional songs and full of devotion. But except when he meditated and performed worship. So we heard from the master that one day some of the things Sri Ramakrishna himself used to say. So very often he used to cry and pray, and he say, "You showed yourself to Ram Prasad, but why you are not showing?" He said for hours together he was crying, and people naturally they thought he's lost his mind, he's gone mad, because only a sympathetic person was Hriday. He knew there is something divine in this madness. So he was very patient. He knew my uncle is capable of doing all these things. So he very lovingly was always observing, taking care of his health, feeding him, reminding him that he has to eat. Because you see, it is as it were the Divine Mother herself sent this wonderful person, Hriday Mukherjee, who, though he was a very worldly person, he always wanted to earn money and all those things, but he took very good care. So, how he had his uh, first vision of the Divine Mother and what was that vision. So, we will discuss that, but I'll just read the vision, then we'll explain it in the next class in detail. He says, "There was an unbearable pain in my heart because I could not have the vision of the mother. Just as a man wrings out a towel with all his strength to get the water out of it, I felt as if somebody was squeezing my heart. I began to think that I should never see the mother. I was thinking that I'm dying of despair. In my agony, I asked myself, what is the use of living this life? Suddenly, his eyes fell on the sword that hangs in the mother shrine, that is normally kept in her hand. So I decided to end my life then and there. Then, like a madman, I ran to the sword and seized it. Then I had a marvelous vision of the mother and fell down unconscious. Now, what was that vision? He's explaining in on some other occasion. Afterwards, I don't know how day and night passed, but one thing changed after that. That I found that within me there was a steady flow of undiluted bliss that I had never before experienced, and I felt the immediate presence of the Divine Mother wherever I went. So he says exactly what happened to the vision. It was as if the room, doors, temple, and everything else vanished, as if there was nothing anywhere. And what I saw was an infinite, shoreless ocean of light. The ocean was consciousness. However far and in whatever direction I looked, I saw shining waves, one after another, coming towards me to swallow me up. They were rushing towards me from all the sides with a terrific noise. Very soon they were upon me and they pushed me down into unknown depths, and I panted and struggled and lost consciousness. It is only after this the master told us that during his first vision he saw a shining ocean of consciousness. But was this pure consciousness the Divine Mother Kali who bestows boons and fearlessness? Did the master see her in that ocean of light? It seems that he did later. We heard that when he partially regained, not when he was deep into his into that vision or in that samadhi. So he partially regained consciousness, and the first thing he saw was mother, and that's why he uttered mother, mother. So since after that, you will find a totally different Ramakrishna, a totally different Sri Ramakrishna who always felt the presence of the Divine Mother in whatever he did, whatever uh, action he did, whatever thought he thought, whatever he wanted to know. For everything, he was in touch or in contact with the Divine Mother after his first vision. So we'll discuss that in the next class. Yes.
Couple of questions on that.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to imitate the walking, talking behavior of a God realized soul? Can this be a mode of sadhana?
Yes.
If yes, can we become beneficiary of his realizations?
Yes, there are two parts to the question. Somebody has asked this question. So I was referring to Sri Krishna's, Arjuna's query to Sri Krishna, that because he was very keen to know that a Sthita Prajna, or one who has reached the highest consciousness, how does he walk, how does he talk, how does he behave himself, how does he conduct himself in the world, what are the characteristics? Naturally, uh, Arjuna thought that how do I recognize a person whether he has reached the Sthita Prajna? So the question that is being asked now is whether, if we are not Sthita Prajnas, which we are not, otherwise we would uh, definitely be in that state, and we would realize that we are in that state, and we would be much more peaceful, much more joyful, and at peace with ourselves. But since we are still struggling, that means we have not reached that state. And the question is, can we imitate those people by studying the characteristics? If you see the Shankar Bhashya of that second chapter where the Sthita Prajna Lakshana is explained, I don't know which verse it starts, but there are 72 verses. But many verses are dedicated to this Sthita Prajna Lakshana. So, Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha means, so what is the definition of Sthita Prajna? How does he walk? How does he talk? How does so this in answer to that question. So naturally the characteristics are there. But if and your question is, the question that is being asked is, can we imitate that? After reaching the Sthita Prajna state, obviously we'll walk like that, talk like that. But if somebody who has not reached that state, can he imitate that and hope to reach that state? Yes, that is exactly what Arjuna is asked to do. Obviously, we can't imitate 100% because imitation can never be uh, as good as the real. But it will remind you, it will definitely motivate you that this is a state. So if a person constantly imitates, what is japa? Japa or Nam sadhana is we are trying again and again to repeat a name which is not real to us right now. As we go on repeating, though mechanically and sometimes with a lot of interest, a day will come when that mantra becomes real to us. So also all these characteristics, if we repeat, once we'll repeat, people will understand that he is not a Sthita Prajna, but he is trying to behave as one. So Sri Ramakrishna told a nice story. I mentioned it in the previous gospel class. One person he was a thief. He found a nice way to rob. So he goes to a very rich zamindar's house, which had a big pond and they had a lot of fish. So he thought, let me go at night, quietly take a net and steal all the fish and run away before the sun dawns, and people that way I can make money. So he came, but he was afraid that if the sound is heard and then the watchmen and the other people may come and catch me. So he had come prepared with some disguises. So what he did was when there was noise, suddenly the master of the house shouted, and all with lanterns, sticks, and all they came out. Think, trying to means their intention was to catch this robber red-handed or even otherwise, because they knew definitely somebody has come and making some noise in the water. Now this robber was prepared. What he did was this thief immediately threw all the net and other things into the water, and he had a bag where he had some clothes. He had some gerua clothes, a big mala, and he had some ashes vibhuti which he applied on the head. Immediately disguised himself as a monk, and went to a nearby tree and just sat under that tree as if he is meditating. So he was actually imitating. Now these people came and seeing this person, they did not suspect that he was the robber. So they asked him, have you seen a robber here? He said, no, I was deep in meditation. I don't know might have come. I didn't see anyone going. So then they gave up. They thought he has escaped. And then this robber was there. Now, of course, he cannot go away. He was sitting there. And immediately next morning, he saw there were hundreds of villagers coming with lot of fruits, and they started treating him so nicely. Oh, holy man has come. The word spread very fast. And then this gentleman, this robber or thief, thought, see, even just by imitation for one day, people are respecting me and doing so much of seva, and it is such a, instead of robbing, I can do this. But the intention was that if I really become a monk or really take to a spiritual life, then how much more I will be appreciated and how much more I'll gain. So the idea is in the beginning, imitation is just it is not true. But Sri Krishna says that as you go on imitating, as you go on doing japa, trying to be what you are not, slowly that habit will make that imitation part of your nature. So that is how it becomes part of your personality. So they call it, Swami Sarvasthananda will mention that while describing Sri Ramakrishna's experiences. He says they are known as the nervous association of ideas. So right now the ideas are in our brain. They are not nervously associated with our actions, our personality. So they have to become part of our autonomous nervous system. There are many things which have become autonomous. Like for example, we take a bath. We don't think and take a bath. We just do it. We just go take a cycle, scooter, take a car and drive. It has the driving, all the actions that we do, most of the actions that we do throughout the day have become nervously associated with our autonomous nervous system. So it requires very little effort to do. Similarly, when you imitate these qualities, a stage comes when they become part of your nervous system. That is when the ideas that you entertain, the Gita that you read, or the Sthita Prajna verses that you follow, these verses, they become part and parcel. Till they become part and parcel of your nervous system, you have to go on practicing. That's the answer.
It's one question. We don't have any classes announced in the website, so someone is checking.
Classes, yeah, the the next class, obviously I have not announced because next weekend I will be going to Dublin. So Friday I'll be going, and there are two programs there, Saturday and Sunday, and Monday I'll come back. So that's why we have, see, we normally give the whole schedule for the whole month. So maybe before going tomorrow or day after, I'll give the schedule because today is the last class of this month. So the schedule for the next month you will find. So we'll update it. I think most of you, those who are attending, you know that we have created a channel. Earlier we had to send, even now this today also I sent it in the broadcast groups, but they have become too large now, and many of the people, we don't want to just impose these messages on them. We want them their privacy. So some of them also have expressed that they don't get time. So please don't remind us again and again. So we decided to form a channel. So all of you, we have sent the message many times. Some of them don't know how the channel operates. There is a WhatsApp channel where you don't get updates directly on your mobile, on your WhatsApp. You will get only if you go to that channel and click on the notification. There is a bell icon where you have to, which has a cross, which has a slash there. You remove the slash, then that notification will come as a dot, a green dot or a blue dot on your WhatsApp. If you go to the updates, you see the updates, there will be a dot. When you click on that, you will go to the Ramakrishna Vedanta Center uh, channel. And in the channel, you will find a link. If you click on that link, you can join the sessions. So we will not update it till people get used to this new arrangement. We are sending messages on all the six or seven. I think there we are more than seven. It takes a lot of time because broadcast groups have a limit of 256 members. So there's no point in sending messages to such a large number, more than 1,000 people. Half of them have just subscribed, but they don't attend these classes. So if they want, so till now I see that nearly 348 people or 350 people have subscribed. So it's optional. They get the updates. They can whenever they want. All they have to do is click on that, go to the website or get the links and attend the online class. And those who want to come here are of course welcome. Is it? Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.